Well, it's 3 o'clock, and welcome to the September 28th session of the Board of Library Trustees of the Allen County Public Library. Will you call the roll?
I certainly will. Mr. Eisbart?
Present.
Mr. Williams?
Present.
Mr. Seifert?
Present.
Ms. Tucker?
Present.
Mr. Castleman?
Present.
Mr. Moss? Ms. Shamanoff, present. So we have 6 out of 7 currently.
6 present, 1 absent. Our second item on our agenda will be the public hearing on our library's 2024 operating budget. So let me turn it over to our CFO.
All right, thank you, Ben. And just some opening comments. Many of you were at the Finance and Personnel Committee where we discussed it. As you may recall, we're going to be limited by the state to a 4% increase in both our levy and our budget. So our budget for next year will be $38,502,459. That's the official budget. Of course, our internal budget will factor in $1.8 million worth of tax caps that we'll have to deal with. So our internal budget will be less. With that, our levy and our budget will go up $1.4 million. Our tax rate is actually likely to go down. We are currently at 13.04 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. Based on the certified assessed value for 24, that is likely to go down to 12.32 cents per $100, so almost a 5% drop. But a lot of the taxing entities are seeing that this year because the assessed value growth being over 10%. So we're seeing the benefit of that. But we'll still be limited, like I said, on our levy and our budget. So really, those are the highlights. The official notice has been placed in Gateway. That was placed around the 1st of September. And this public hearing is the second phase of that, where we will then, in October, make the final passage of the budget. So,
Thank you, David. Is there anyone here or on television or radio or internet or wherever that would like to address the public hearing portion of the budget? See no one in the room and no one online. Okay, our budget session is over, the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion. We adopt the agenda as mailed.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Thank you. The agenda's adopted. If there are no objections, I'd like to group the minutes of regular session August 24th, 23, minutes of executive session August 24th, 23, the minutes approving the claims of September 11th, 2023, and the minutes of the capital project executive session September 11th and 12th of 2023.
I move we approve all of the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, correction, or revisions? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Well, back to you, David, with the
All right.
financial report of August.
yeah, well, this is a quick one. There aren't any new lines that have gone in spending out of their benchmarks, so there's nothing to report there. And as far as the 24 budget, as I just mentioned, we're in the midst of the process with the public hearing taking place now and the approval taking place in October's meeting. The main thing coming up is going to be the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. That has been set now for October 12th at 3 o'clock. And that is the meeting, as you may recall, where we will be discussing the compensation and benefit package for 2024. Lorraine's been working very hard at getting all the estimates in from our benefit consultants, Gibson. They are the new ones, as you recall, this year. They started in mid-year, and so we'll be there at the meeting to go over their recommendations, and then we will have recommendations on the salary increase and other compensation items. So that's slated for that Thursday, and then afterward, that would be what would go to the November meeting as well as the December meeting, but the November one will be when you would approve the compensation benefit package and then the official tables and such would be approved in December. So, but that's really all the thing I can report at this point.
Questions on the financial report? Entertain a motion to approve subject to audit.
So moved.
And the second,
Second.
thank you so much.
I'm sorry, you're not allowed to audit that.
Can't audit?
No,
I
I
wonder-
don't allow audits anymore. I've disbanded them.
Well, we'd save money if the state didn't require it.
That's true. That's true.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. And now we come to our favorite part,
That's
the
right.
claims.
Approval of claims, we'll be bringing these around. They're 548,000 for today, of which the highest one is of course, electrical service. That was only 81,000, only 81. And then 73,000 in insurance premiums. And, another one for 53,000 for self-insurance. Those were the largest claims. The rest of them were all for materials, library materials, and non-print materials.
Okay. Motion to approve the claims.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second with a question.
Second with a question.
Dave, has there been any, I know electricity for us continues to be one of our largest spending items month after month. And there's a lot of conversation around solar right now, tax incentives. And have we looked into any of those and
Yeah.
how it would impact us?
Yeah, we're actually, one of the things that Jake, our maintenance head of facilities, is looking at, we're going to have this building's roof that's going to have to be addressed here in the next few years. And this would be a prime possibility for solar installation. Our consultants have looked at that, the roofing experts, and that's something we're looking at incorporating. So where we have that roof space and stuff, they're looking at possibly using that. There's some branches that might have some land available for that, but many of ours are fitting the footprint of the building is fitting the yard, so we wouldn't be able to do it there. But this one is the biggest user of electricity, so this is the one that would make the most sense.
I'm glad to hear that. I know some of the newer facilities that are being built, like if my understanding is right, the JA building put a lot of solar on top of that
Sure.
building and saving
Sure.
quite a bit of money in their utilities expense. So, cool, thank
Yeah,
you.
and I&M, AEP, is still offering a lot of incentives, I believe, for some of that green energy thing. So when those might still be available, not sure, but that's what we're trying to incorporate in that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And we've had some conversation in the Capital Improvements Committee too,
Yeah.
around, as we're looking at our plans, does that include adding solar in some locations and what makes sense on that end? And then there's some possible federal programs that could potentially aid in that, so I know that's being looked at. from that
I think we mentioned last month, several of us have gone to a seminar, our presentation on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is where it's confusingly called IRA, which just confuses me, but
Right.
that's what it is. Also, and that has been something, certainly we're definitely going to be exploring that for the facility master plan, but I 100% agree we should look at it for this building as well and get that done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, entertain approval of the claims, and then we'll circulate them around for signature. May I have did we do that already?
I think we did a-
We
Need to vote.
Just gotta
Yeah,
take
we
a
need to vote.
I got so involved with it. Okay, we're passing them around.
We actually need to vote yet, Ben.
It's been a long day. All those in favor of the approval of the claims signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Thank you. Okay, strategic plan update.
Thank you, Ben. As you know, in the past few months of meetings, we have had updates about our strategic planning process and where we are in it. A few months ago, Irene and Andy with Petra Solutions were here with their findings, and last month, we brought to you some draft focus areas of the plan for you to give input on. It's been a long day, like Ben said. So tonight, we have here a draft of a plan. This is just for discussion only. We are not at a point where we are asking for any kind of vote or final approval, but we wanted to give you an update on what we have been working on, and again, see if you think we're heading into the right direction. So we have been developing goals and action items in support of those 5 strategic focus areas that we talked about at last month's meeting. And what you have in your packet tonight is a first draft for your review and discussion. At our October meeting, we will present a final draft along with the projected implementation timeline. Many of the proposed goals and action items support the projects outlined in our facility master plan. We talked about a focus area of celebrating reading and learning. Through books, hands-on learning, technology, and valuing different perspectives, we celebrate individual and collective stories. And as a leadership team, we have been thinking about what goals and action items could support a focus area like that. We have a few examples before you. One I'd like to talk about tonight is an increased focus on early literacy. And I feel like Dr. Shamanoff would be all in favor of that. Yes. And some action items that could support that would be launching a year-round reading program focused on early literacy, such as 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. That is a very popular national program that many public libraries use that encourages children to hit that 1,000 book mark before they enter kindergarten, which is a real indicator of their future success as readers. I see lots of nodding from Gloria, yes. Another example of an action item would be to explore partnerships and offer support to help bring Imagination Library to Allen County. Imagination Library is the Dolly Parton initiative where children under the age of 5 get a free book mailed to their home. Right now, the state of Indiana offers some support for that program. They will do matching funds with counties and other jurisdictions who would like to implement the program. Several counties in Indiana have it. Allen County doesn't. I think it is a real opportunity, particularly in our area where we do know that we have challenges involving reading scores. There is a financial commitment to that program. I don't see that that is something that Allen County Public Library or any of its support groups could take on solely, but I do think that we could find partners in other agencies. So that is a conversation that I would really like to start in 2024. The state library is hiring someone to manage the program statewide, and when that person is in place, that is someone who would be a resource to connect people to potential funders in their area. So I look forward.
Who has to approve that to bring it to Allen County? Is it a commissioner? Is it the council?
It would have to be, it wouldn't be a government approval necessarily. It would need to be a funder. In many communities, it is a United Way initiative. I've seen in some communities that it is something like a community foundation or an early literacy alliance. And often libraries are support partners in some way, whether that's providing an element of funding or staff power to do the admin work of the program or just helping to promote the program.
I see.
And another action item would be, and actually this is a bit of a ringer because we're already starting to do this, expanding Storyscapes to other branches. About a year ago to this day almost, we opened the newly remodeled Storyscape, the early learning area here at the main library, and we have secured funding from the foundation to expand that to 2 more branches, and we would like to see that grow throughout the system. Before I move on to some of the other focus areas, any thoughts or feedback on celebrating reading and learning and what that could look like?
Well, I guess I can't go by and not say anything. I appreciate and I appreciate your first goal here when I read it. So, anything we can do to get children to become involved in reading helps them, and they will be then great citizens in our Fort Wayne community. And whether they stay with us or not, wherever they're going, they'll be a great citizen. So I appreciate, applaud all of you who came up with this particular goal.
The only comment I have is the Imagination Library. I'm glad that's on the list. I know you and I have talked about the Dolly Parton, and certainly people have asked me about it. Well, why aren't we doing that? And as we talked about, it's a financial commitment. It's not like we suddenly just get a whole bunch of stuff. We have a program in mind, and I'm glad we're exploring that.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. Our second focus area, creating a culture of belonging through our team, collections, and services. Everyone has a home at ACPL. And one proposed goal is increased programs and services that celebrate diversity. And some action items that could support that. Something that Lorraine and I have done some very early research on is a proposal for a staff bilingual bonus. And that is something that is fairly common at public libraries around the country. And that is a pay incentive for staff who speak certain languages that are relevant to the community and use those languages in their daily work and are willing to be available to use that during their workday. For instance, someone who speaks Spanish, maybe that person who speaks Spanish doesn't even have a public-facing position. Maybe they are a cataloger. But if we have a Spanish-speaking group who needs to come for a library tour, that is an employee who we could tap to come and help with that tour. We know that we have work to do in regards to speaking the languages that our community speaks, and we also want to recognize the skill set of our library staff and compensate them for using those skills. A part of this would need to be some sort of vetting and testing, and there are several third parties out there who do this kind of testing to make sure that people have the skills they say they do. Usually there are different tests for reading, writing, and comprehension conversation. But I really look forward to looking into what that can be for our community. Any questions about that? Have you heard of a program like that, Bilingual Bonus?
Not bilingual bonus, but at Neighborhood Health, we serve patients that speak, last year, 41 different languages.
Wow.
And while we have Burmese on board, Spanish on board, and then English on board, the balance of them are done through a contract with an interpreter. And that's costing us about $9,000 a month or so. Is that something we're exploring, or are you looking for physical presence here?
We're actually looking for both. So we have a relationship now with an interpreting service out of Indianapolis called Luna, and they do a lot of our print collateral. But we also think there's a real need for people to be able to come in our buildings or go to an outreach event and have somebody who speaks their language. There are a lot of technological options and services that we can hire out, but I don't think anything can really compare to that connection, to know that their library represents them, looks like them, speaks the same language as them.
I think that's a very valuable outlook to, or idea even. I know before we talked about making sure we had place markers or place signs so that individuals would know, but being able to have staff on board, that also contributes to the success of being able to help English as second language individuals would be very beneficial. I know my daughter is, she tutors Japanese online, and it's amazing how many people that we have here that are English as a second language, so being able to help them out and include them in our services is a great idea, and I love that you're thinking broad about that.
And I think also, as well as the language competency, there's a cultural understanding and competency that is a huge part of this as well. But that was a good question, Ben, and to your point, yes to all of it. On the note of cultural competency, something we are also looking into is the creation of a partnerships and program specialist position that would have the specialization of bilingual outreach. When we heard from Irene and Andy, one thing that kept coming up in their focus groups was that particularly the immigrant and refugee community, they need to know who the contact is. They need to know who to reach in the library to access services and programs. There needs to be a person. And right now, we just don't have that particular skill set and language set in place devoted to just do that. We have staff who speak Spanish and Burmese and other languages, but they also have other responsibilities, other full-time jobs. What we're looking at is creating a position that would solely focus on outreach programs, services in either Spanish or Burmese, probably to start. And that would be their full-time role. And we have not ever really devoted resources like that to multicultural communities. And I think there's just such growth potential there. We want to start with one. Quite frankly, we probably need more than one, but one would be a really good start. Any thoughts about that?
Are there individuals that are graduating from college or whatnot that speak more than one other language other than English? Do they come out of college maybe knowing more than one? Because I'm just thinking we have, so many other needs that if we could find someone who knew more than just one.
That would be really beneficial. I mean, the perfect unicorn.
Yes.
Someone who spoke fluent Burmese and Spanish. If you are
Yes.
out there, my email address is librarydirector@acpl.info. Please email me right now. We will find a position for you. But yeah, that would be ideal.
I think the option lies too, and I love the way you shouted that out. And I know you were kind of half joking and half serious, but maybe that is a way we look at it. Like instead of waiting till they've made the decision, we go into the schools and talk to individuals that are going into school and help them see the career that could lie before them. Especially EAU and East Allen County, they have a lot of Burmese-speaking individuals where they speak both languages, and their career paths are sometimes undecided by the time they get to the junior year. So that might be an opportunity that we could capitalize on for them.
Very good idea. And all of that, I said before, would lend itself to introducing bilingual story times, which is not something we have done on a regular basis before, that I think it's long overdue.
Good.
If there are no questions about that, we'll move on to focus area number 3, connecting community. Through collaborations with people and organizations, we strengthen our community and extend our reach. And one of our proposed goals for that would be to continue to strengthen ACPL's partnerships and collaboration with the Friends of the Library, Friends of the Lincoln Collection, and the ACPL Foundation, which I think we have made great strides on that front in recent years. There's more to do. Some ideas for that would be, and I actually have a visual aid, the return of the Friends Gold Card. Do any of you have one of these?
I have the old one.
I have the old one.
Didn't even know there was a thing.
Well, this is the library gold card, and we have had conversations with the Friends in recent months that they would like to see this reinstituted. So this card didn't really bring any special library privileges with it, but you got a shiny gold card with a monetary donation to the Friends. So this became your regular library card, and then whenever you checked out books at the library, the staff recognized that you were a member of the Friends and could offer their thanks and appreciation for your support. It was phased out a few years ago. The Friends are really interested in bringing it back as a fundraiser for them. I also talked to our frontline staff who work in circulation and asked what they thought about bringing it back. They said they loved it. They said at the desk it was really fun when someone brought up a gold card and it was a conversation starter and they could thank them for their participation in the Friends. They were very much in support of it. So it's a conversation with the Friends, of course, to think about what kind of monetary donation would get you a gold card. When it was done years ago, it was $50. I personally think it needs to be higher than that, but that's a conversation with the Friends. But we're thinking that maybe we can do this starting in April for National Library Week. So stay tuned for that. Another activity that, again, this is a bit of a ringer because the work has already started, is a joint fundraiser/friendraiser between the Friends of the Library and the Literacy Alliance in May of next year. The Literacy Alliance reached out to us several months ago and wanted to hold a fundraiser here. And part of their fundraiser would be to offer attendees behind-the-scenes VIP tours of the library. The Friends have asked about doing a similar event. Since we are already such great partners with the Literacy Alliance and there's so much synergy there, we brought the two together and asked if they would mind collaborating on one event, and both parties were very, very excited about it. So again, it's just another opportunity to strengthen those community collaborations and kind of work together on common goals. The other action item that we are in the exploration stages for is something that is requested quite a bit. It is a ACPL logo merch store. We get requests very, very often from library fans, library patrons who would love to have a library sweatshirt. They would love to have some memento from the Genealogy Center that has its logo. And our marketing department, and Chris, our new marketing manager, is starting to do some research on what an online merchandise store might look like and if that could serve as a fundraiser for the Friends.
Were you thinking it would all be online or nothing live?
We're not sure. Libraries, I did some research with other libraries, and most libraries have it as an exclusively online environment and don't really keep any materials in stock unless there's some sort of major program. Like I'm thinking we had Korea Fest a few weekends ago. That's probably an event that if we had had a table with some library sweatshirts and t-shirts, we could have sold out. Any other questions or thoughts? Anybody want a gold card?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll have to admit, I haven't seen my actual card in years, since I'm only usually online, the barcode on the app. So,
Well, this would be a good excuse for you to get a brand new
I should get one, yes.
shiny card.
Maybe there's a way to
yes.
put an extra star on the online.
Yeah, we kind of have
On his profile or something.
You know, you say that, but Beth has been, you know what I'm going to say. Beth has asked if it is technologically possible, because you can pull up your card in an app, and of course, we're going to be updating to a new app in the matter of weeks. Like, when they open up their card on the app, if it could like have gold confetti or stars or a bell or something, so stay tuned. We'll work on that. So for our next proposed focus area, it's leading through innovation. Through sustainable innovation and improvement, we thrive as a library and as a community. And one goal we have been chewing on would involve really the crown jewel of this library system, our genealogy department. We know that genealogy puts this library on the map. It is an incredible asset, and it is just ripe for potential to expand through technological innovation. And one idea that Kurt and I have been kicking around, I think since my second day here at the library, I exaggerate, but not really. But both of us would really love to see some sort of genealogy mobile. We know about a bookmobile, a genealogy outreach vehicle that could travel throughout the community that would bring tools to capture family histories, oral histories to people. Even folks who may not really consider themselves a genealogist, you may not consider yourself a genealogist, but I bet you have a family story. And we could equip a van of some sorts, an outreach mobile, with scanners so you can scan your photographs, with basically recording equipment, podcasting equipment, so you could record an oral history. There's just so much that could be done there. When you blend genealogy and technology, you just have so many options for innovation and to bring the work of the Genealogy Center throughout the entire county.
We might want to consider having a monthly or a periodic contest where anyone that is interested in learning more about the history of his or her family would send in a postcard to the library, and there'd be a drawing once a month, and that individual or that family could be researched by the department and come up, like we've done in the past with other, like Lincoln folks and things of that nature.
I like that. Well, Kurt and his team do amazing family history, almost novellas. I mean, It can take up to a month. It's a good month sometimes, right, to do some of those research projects
Yeah.
that you do? But that's a really great idea. Any other thoughts or questions about that? Okay. And finally, our fifth focus area, designing functional, friendly spaces. Through accessible, intuitive, and easy to navigate physical and virtual spaces, our patrons discover all we have to offer. And one potential goal would be welcoming entrances and responsive service points. Something that came through loud and clear through Arena and Andy and their focus groups and their interviews and their research is that there's some room for us to grow when it comes to the patron experience when they enter the library and if they feel welcome and included. And if they feel that the service is responsive. And there's some things we can do with our physical space as well as looking at our staff and how we place them in the building. And we have talked about something like welcoming signs in multiple languages. That's something that is relatively simple to do, but could have a really big impact if you come into our library and one of the first things you see is your language represented, telling you that you are welcome in the library. We have talked about what staff greeters could look like at different service points throughout the library. We've talked about service points that are flexible and mobile, that we can have more responsive places where we can have librarian stationed to do those reference interviews. And also, and this is something that has been on Kim's list for a while, that I'm sure she will want to get to after our Polaris migration is complete. We want to revise and revamp our customer service training for all of our staff. Any other questions or comments?
The only thing I might comment is the signs, kind of the wayfinding and all that. I think we've discussed that actually for a while now. And I'm definitely in favor of this. We need to kind of move forward with it, I think. I love the library, but I know where everything is. But I think a lot of people, you walk in, you're not sure. And I think we could do, frankly, a better job on that. From hallways to the stairwells, just a lot of things could be a little brighter, more colorful. Maybe not so institutional in some ways in the library.
Bilingual?
Yeah.
Bilingual, trilingual, I agree.
That's definitely the feedback we heard.
And the other is just, I really like the draft we have, I like the goals, I like even more the action items, and we just have to be able to measure, okay, we did it, here's the things we think we need to do, because that can be fluid, we
Right.
add, we can, all right, that didn't work out, but I think it's really important that everyone keep on top of not just a piece of paper, that we're actually doing these things, and have the action items to get them done.
The other comment I would have is you have these goals and you have your staff. You also have board members that might be able, you can tap, and especially in the reading part, I would be more than willing to help in whatever manner I could do. That's really near and dear to my
We will
heart.
take you up on that.
Okay.
Absolutely. We would love that.
Susan, I wrote a note here that says, I'm very happy to see how thoughtful you and your team continue to be to help us stay relevant and not stale. And the items that you've listed here to me, that's what they're doing. They're keeping us important in the patrion's mind and making sure that the experience when they come into the building is up to par. And it's refreshing to see that you guys always keep that on the forefront of your mind. How can we serve better?
Thank you, I appreciate that, and this team will not allow this library to stay stale. That's just not in their makeup at all. We're very lucky.
Is-
Okay.
Maybe, I guess, question.
Yeah.
You had maybe talked about this a little bit, I had to miss the last meeting, but from a time perspective, what's the timeline on this strategic plan?
We are thinking this would be a four-year plan, 24 through 28.
Okay. And then do you plan to put dates next to
Yes,
the action items and all
absolutely.
that kind of stuff too, that comes back? Okay, good deal. That's what I wanted to make sure of, because I know that any action plan I've ever had, if there aren't dates and responsible parties attached to it, the accountability is just not there. So,
Correct.
good deal.
Any further questions or comments? If not, you're still up, but Executive Director's Report.
Great. Well, thank you for this feedback. This is very helpful. We will bring back a fully flush plan next month. For my executive director's report, I'm going to put Dave on the spot a bit because I should have had this written in the report and I did not. You had shared a few weeks ago about the Aboit meeting room and the construction project
Yes.
and where we are. Would you mind
Yeah.
briefing the board on where we are on
Yeah,
that
in
project?
fact, I just talked with Jake this afternoon, and we've had great weather, and we are ahead of schedule. We originally thought the branch was going to be closed 6 to 8 weeks. Fingers being crossed and the rain holds off the rest of the week, we may be able to be open for staff to move it back in there on Monday. And have things like hold, pickup, and movement of materials and things. We won't be able to have the meeting room available until probably the full 8 weeks, because they just have too much to do in there. But it would be, if you recall, Aboit, the damage mainly in the back half of the area and stuff, but that front area would be available. So, keeping our fingers crossed, that would only be a 4-week construction, which was fantastic. When it comes to construction, I was leaning, it's probably going to be more like the 8-week, but it's been good for us. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that will, at least have some changes and services coming out of there by Monday.
That's awesome.
I was driving by there the other day, and I noticed we have these sawhorses that block the entrance, and there's a phone number to call. Have we had people call the phone number and give us their comments, questions, or?
Nothing that I've heard of.
I've had nothing
Yeah.
come across my desk or my email. I've heard wonderfully supportive things from patrons. The main concern I've heard from patrons, they were worried that our staff wouldn't have a job for a few weeks. And we have assured them, all those Aboit staff members are deployed at other library locations, and they're helping out, and they're all great and happy and healthy, but they can't wait to come back together.
Okay.
Well, this is the good news executive director's report. We have construction that is ahead of schedule. When
Yeah,
does that happen?
exactly.
And this hit the media, and I actually knew about this last month, but it was still kind of embargoed, so I couldn't share it publicly, but now I can. The AWS Foundation awarded $100,000 to our audio reading service to support a digital upgrade of the ARS recording studios. The grant will fund the majority of the $130,000 estimated total project cost to upgrade the nearly 20-year-old studios from analog to digital. To say we are thrilled is an understatement. Such a big gift, and we are just so grateful to Patty and the AWS Foundation board and staff for their support of our work. And that work has, I'm going to put Beth on the spot, it started.
We have meetings that have already happened. We meet with furniture people in the next week or two.
In other news, as you know, Mara Honeywell resigned back in July to take a director position elsewhere in the state. I am happy to announce that we do have someone coming in that position. Her name is Jackie Fullwood, and she'll be joining our team in early November as our new youth services manager. She comes to us from the Dayton, Ohio Public Library, where she served as the youth experience manager. So I'll be looking forward to welcoming her. For the third consecutive year, SuperShot, the vaccine nonprofit, will partner with us to hold free flu shot clinics for the public as well as our staff.
That was in the paper today.
And it was on ABC 21 as well. Yes, they will be held in October at Main Library as well as the Pontiac and Waynedale branches. They hope to bring the new COVID booster if the supplies are available. Wanted to share, this is this report full of good news. I like these reports. I mentioned in my director's report about an ordinance at the Fort Wayne City Council. When I wrote the report, the City Council had not had its final meeting about it. I'm happy to say that at Tuesday night's meeting, the City Council approved unanimously an ordinance amending a municipal code regarding the funding structure of access originator grants. What that means is that Access Fort Wayne, as well as PFW and Fort Wayne Community Schools, have been beneficiaries for years of grants through the city from cable franchise fees. As you know, cable franchise fees have been declining over the years because fewer and fewer customers have cable. We approached the city, along with the other originators, to talk about how the ordinance can be changed to where more of those funds could come back to the originators. And with the support of the city of Fort Wayne and the council, and we are very grateful for that, on Tuesday night, an ordinance was approved, and you have the language of the ordinance in your packet. So currently, the split between the city and the originators is 60-40. So of those cable franchise fees, 60% go to the city of Fort Wayne, and the remaining 40% is split between ACPL, PFW, and Fort Wayne Community Schools. We use those funds to support the production of City TV, the city's cable access station where we air city council meetings and other city shows, as well as the Access Fort Wayne programming. With the ordinance that was passed on Tuesday, that funding structure will shift, and it will stair-step up with an increased amount to the originators, with finally, in the year 2030, 100% of those cable franchise fees will go to the originators, not to exceed $900,000. So that is a tremendous improvement for us as well as the other cable originators. And again, we are very, very grateful for everyone in the city who recognize this issue with us and work proactively with us to come to a solution. So thank you. And finally, and I've asked Aja to share some words on this, we are heading into the final stretch of preparing to go live with our new integrated library system, Polaris. We have been very busy with all aspects of that, including data mapping, training, and preparing a public communication plan. We'll go live for patrons on Halloween, October 31st, and I've asked Aja to share a few words about our plan to communicate these changes to the public.
Sure. So, well, Kim's team has been doing the heavy lift, which is learning what all of the impacts on the patrons are going to look like in the reality of moving from one system to the next. And so we have learned on the marketing team what those impacts are going to be, and then our job is figuring out how do we tell patrons about that in a way that they'll hear, they'll be able to absorb. And so we've been parsing through all of that. We've set up a landing page which goes and gives them all of the detail, and then we've pulled out the pieces that will impact the most people and are really driving home those key points. The goal of this first wave of communication is to make sure that the folks who are our current patrons who use our services, that they are aware of how they're going to be impacted and any action items that they need to take to minimize impacts. So the communication kicks off October 1st, so that's this Sunday. We are pulling together signage that will be at the branches, so that way, as patrons begin to receive email communication, app notifications, when they see things on social media, and they see things on the website, if they come into a branch and ask questions, there will be supplemental materials in the branch that a branch person who has a conversation with them can also refer to say, if you have additional questions after you leave this conversation with me, this would be the link, let me help you scan it, and let's get it added to your phone, or let's write down the link so that you can have follow-up information. So signage will be going out. This first wave that happens on the 1st is all focused on the system, the great new features that are coming with it, all of the, just basically how great the new experience is going to be, how seamless it will be for the patron, and referring them to that FAQ landing page where they can learn about all the ins and outs of it. Then the next wave happens on the 8th. We'll be sending out additional signage to the branches, which will be at the desk. And this is starting to refer the patrons to what we're calling a limited service status. So this is a period of time, 2 weeks, where patrons will actually feel impacts of the migration. This is where the system goes into sort of an offline mode. So we're still doing business. They can still come in, they can still check out books, they can return their books, but the system is sort of offline. So when they look at their patron account, it's not going to reflect the book they just checked out. It's not going to reflect the book they just returned. And as you can imagine, that will cause some anxiety for patrons because I just dropped my book off, but it's not showing on my account. Oh my gosh, they didn't get it. So we want to make sure that they know this information so that we don't have unnecessary anxiety with our patrons. So that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that they know that on October 8th, that in about a week, there's going to be what we're calling a limited service status. So service is still happening. You can still use your library, but there are going to be some impacts you might feel, and these are what they are. You're not going to be able to place holds the same way. You're going to need your actual physical library card when you come into the library. When you go to look at your patron account, it might not be totally up to date on the book you just returned or the book you just checked out. Here's how you call us, here's how you get in touch with us to make sure that you have the most current information. Don't worry, we're tracking it, we've got it. And when we go live on the 31st, your system is going to update. You're going to see it all in the new system. There is a particular action item that patrons do need to take if they have book lists. I know this affects you, Marty. So there's a form that you'll need to fill out that a staff member will help you through that process. Because as you can imagine, patron book lists are personalized, right? That's your business, what books you want to read. And so we have measures in place that prevent us from being able to see patron book lists. But when we do something like this, that means we don't have a way to marry a list with an actual patron person that we can see. And so the patron has to help us bridge those connections. But we want to help them with that. And so we are giving them an opportunity to fill out a form. Then a staff member will work with them to get those, to capture their list for them, give them that list, and then when they have access to the new system, those lists can be rebuilt. So that is probably the biggest impact that they'll feel. We've run the numbers to see, how many patrons would be, are sort of mega users with these mega lists, and it's not a huge number. So we're hoping that we can catch them and serve them in a one-on-one sort of white glove service way to try to minimize that impact. It's like any type of communication. Some people will get the email, some people will get the notification, some people will read it, some people won't. We are trying to hit them from all angles so that we can catch as many people as possible. We will still get the inevitable person who missed the message. So we have lots of triggers to try to catch them. We have mechanisms that tell us who did not read that email so we can send them additional emails. We have mechanisms that tell us, we have additional messaging built in even halfway through the stream to say, just in case you missed it, the library is doing this big thing and these are the impacts. So we have some redundancy built in to the comm plan, hopefully trying to catch everybody. We will not catch everybody, but we are going to do our very best to make sure that patrons know that this is coming and what they need to do. And then once we are in limited service status, there will be additional messages like, do things look weird? Well, this is why. I already told you about it, but you might have missed it, so here you go. This is why it looks weird. And then once we go live, that's when we will send messaging. We'll send out notification like to the media, to the masses, to say, the library has a cool new experience for its patrons. You should come and sign up right now. This is a great time to sign up because there's a totally new experience. We really don't need to tell the masses that we're doing changes right now. We need to tell the people who currently use our system that changes are happening, because if you're not using the system, the changes don't impact you. So, but we will tell the masses once we're live, because now it's a selling point, a thing to get people to come in and sign up. And we will also do some internal pushes after we go live to get folks to engage with things like the app, that maybe they haven't ever downloaded the app before. This is a great time to download the app because it has awesome new features. So that's sort of the plan for the comm rollout. I don't know if that's enough detail for all of you, if that's too much detail.
What similar type of training will be given to staff so when the call comes in, we don't have I didn't know this was happening, or I'll get back to you in 3 days, or,
The staff's getting pretty extensive training. They also have FAQ tools, and they have they have a ton of drop-in trainings they can come to, but I don't know if Kim wants to talk specifically about what that rollout's going to look like, but they've got a whole system of training.
And they've been training for many, many weeks, and we have a very robust library of training videos. We've had trainers from Polaris come on site. So I think that is one thing we have down really, really well, is that training component. Is there anything you want to add specifically, Kim?
I mean, we just had a meeting today. We have weekly meetings. We have meetings upon meetings upon meetings, and we are like working with frontline staff. That's just not management. And so,
And there's a structure of, it's kind of cheesy the way we named it, but so Polaris is our system. So we created the polar bears, which are sort of the top level of leadership, of integration experts, that Kim's sort of like key team.
ice caps.
The ice caps, what did I say?
Polaris Bears.
Bears.
Oh, the ice caps are sort of that top level, and then under them are the Polaris Bears, and they represent each one of the departments and branches. So each branch and department has a person who has been very closely involved all along the way. That's their polar bear. And so that's if you hear people talking about polar bears, that's what we're talking about.
Like the ambassadors, if you will.
Yeah, that's their
and
ambassador, that's their
trainers.
on-site expert. So there's somebody at each location who
There's
has
been-
had deep training all along the way.
Yeah,
So
we've
to
used a
answer-
combination of vendor training as well as train the trainer. And besides the formal training in its many formats, we're also doing something that I think is pretty ingenious. Thank you, Kim Bolin. We are having regular, I think we call them Polaris drop-ins, right? She's nodding. They're just more informal, casual, hop on to Teams at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, and what are you worried about? What are you waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning panicked about? Let's talk about it. Those have been incredibly helpful. Questions come up that we have a lot of really brilliant people working on this project, and sometimes we're just, oh, that's a good point. Let me write that down and we'll get back to you. So it's really been crowdsourcing our entire staff to get their questions, to give them a forum and an opportunity to share their questions, their concerns, their feedback, their suggestions. The communication on this entire project has been really, really strong, and Kim and team have been very intentional about bringing all staff along the way, giving them opportunities for many months now to share all their thoughts. I'm really pleased with it. It's a big, big job.
questions on Polaris or anything else in the report?
I will add one thing. I am really, really grateful this board decided to go fine-free last year for many reasons, but one reason is if we were still collecting library fines, this would be a much more challenging time.
I was thinking of that too earlier.
Yeah. So we can assure patrons that you aren't getting overdue fines. Yes, we realize that we aren't able to check in your book right now because we're in that offline mode for a few weeks, but you're good. If we were still collecting fines, that would be very, very complicated. And there would be a lot of phone calls.
Okay,
I don't want to let it go without thanking Sharon for the support for the ordinance as well, because that was important to us, and we appreciate that.
Well, I did want to say on that it was refreshing to hear many members of the council, and I'm not sure this was at the table, it may have been in private conversations as we explained the purpose of the ordinance, be very supportive of the library and the way that we are the keepers of the documents. Some felt like it is not a if, but how much, because this is the number one place that we're the largest user of the cable access, and knowing that our documents are safe, it was a worthy enhancement. So, thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Sharon.
okay. How about new business? Anything to come before the body? Public comment. We see a public person, but no comment. Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion, then we adjourn.
So moved.
But
Second.
there's nothing on, no,
Nothing online.
nothing online.
Nothing online.
Reminder, there is an executive session immediately following this. So we're adjourned.
Return.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty, too.